So the first question, and kind of this came from it's kind of collection of questions, I should say, is self-knowledge the starting point?
So yeah, is self-knowledge the starting point? So I guess kind of coming back to what we were talking about in the lecture, sometimes it is around that identification of what do I need to make a change, what's important to me. So coming back to that idea of identifying what are my needs, what's going well for me, what do I want to change, having that knowledge for myself, that really is the starting point. That's kind of, as the person who quoted it, that intention, having that intention. And then from there, it's around kind of making that plan and taking those steps to maybe make that change.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Katrina. The next question related, and there was a few along this line, about balance is sometimes hard to achieve when actually you may not have be fully in control of all of your time. There may be other demands that are going into, that are kind of making demands on your time, and how to manage that.
Yeah, so like I'm sure that's an area that we can all really, identify with or resonate with, not having control of all of our time. And I guess one phrase that always comes to mind is, control what you can, so the time that we do have for ourselves, or the time that is free, that we can make changes, how can we best use that? If we do have free time, how can we maybe stop the cycle of procrastinating or being on the phone and using that time for something that's important to us? Also, I would acknowledge maybe there is scope, depending on people's circumstances. Is there scope for support? Is there scope to have a discussion, if it's maybe employment with employers, around maybe making changes, whether it's flexibility around maybe doing some working from home or different hours? Is there maybe scope to make those changes or get a little bit of support?
Okay, thank you. I suppose it is hard. We can only control and manage the things that we have control of. There's sometimes we just have to accept where the boundaries lie. Next question, there was a few along this line where people were putting forward that they've actually made particular decisions. They may have used the SMART process in making kind of pretty significant life changes, whether it's a change of job, going to college, something fairly large. And their concern is, I've actually done the planning bit, but I'm actually really afraid. What happens if it doesn't work? Or if it becomes too much for me? How do I know if I'm not biting off more than I can chew?
So for anyone who's kind of maybe in this stage, first of all, I think to kind of commend yourself, that you've made the plan, that you've put something in place, you've been motivated to kind of enact this plan, and it's obviously important to you. I guess to acknowledge, first of all, that all those feelings are very much valid, and something that is the human experience that most of us feel. If it's a change of job, if it's a change of role, moving house, any of those things, that it's very valid, and that any of us would really experience that kind of anticipatory anxiety around it. But, what can we do to help ourselves? Firstly, I think about who are our supporters. So who's going to be there for us to help us along the way? Maybe if particularly for the person who was talking about college, perhaps it's around specific kind of college supports that might be formally in place, but also thinking about kind of friends and family and those that can support us. And I guess like with anything, when we set a goal, when we make a challenge, we have to take that leap. There's always going to be an element of unknown. We don't know what that outcome is going to be. So I guess having that confidence in ourselves to take that leap, and to know that maybe others are there to support us, that we can support ourselves, depending on what the outcome is.
I think an interesting piece on that as well, and Katrina will back me up in this, is sometimes when we actually, have decided to make a big change, talk to the people who know you really well, because they can also advise. Sometimes we'll undersell ourselves and be really concerned about our own vulnerabilities, but people around us may say, actually, you know what, I think you can do that. I've seen you do this before, or I've seen you do something like this before, because our own confidence may be depleted. But sometimes people who know us and know us well share what your plans are, particularly if you do and are journeying with particular mental illness. Consult with your doctor or your team and ask them for their advice. What do you think? And we can break things down. Everything can always be broken down, even into smaller pieces, so that you take one step. How did that go? Oh, right. Keep going and do the next step and build. But as well as getting your supports, get advice and get that feedback from people. Next question I can kind of relate, and there was a few relating to this as well, is actually how to deal with failure. I'm always concerned about the word failure. I think, sometimes we need to recontextualize that and say, what happens if things don't go the way I would like them to go, or I think they should go?
Yeah, so I think kind of a key part of that, where maybe, as I said, not to use the word failure, but maybe when things don't go to plan, is to take that time and, a key word that we kind of talk about in OT, or in general, we're talking about our mental health, reflect. To really maybe break down, maybe give it a little bit of time, and to break down kind of what didn't go well, and maybe what didn't go to plan, but also what did go to well, because there are always going to be components that went well, or challenges that we did get through, but to break down maybe why. So why did that not go to plan? And I guess coming back to maybe that SMART goal format, was there something in that goal? Maybe I wasn't set up to kind of achieve that goal. Was it maybe not achievable for me depending on where I am at the moment? Maybe it wasn't realistic at the moment. So if I can kind of maybe break down those components, when I'm looking at a goal again, I can maybe reconfigure it. But I think very much, as Orla said, to be kind to ourselves and the language we're using, saying the word kind of failure, how can I reshape that for myself? There's always learning in everything I did. Okay, it didn't go exactly to plan, but here I am, I'm still standing. How can I reshape or make that look different in the future?
I think a good technique that you can use actually when you're setting a goal and you're unsure is to ask yourself, is there a 95% chance of me succeeding with this as it stands? And if there isn't, revisit. Because what you want is success. You want to feel that you're achieving. So start with your 95% successes first, and then as you're getting stronger and more resilient, you can make the odds more difficult, but start with a 95% chance and be honest with yourself. Is there, when you've done all that, is there a 95% chance of me succeeding at this? Okay. The next one actually relates to, could we please put up some of the slides that had the supports and things on them. So of note, all of the talks that have been done over the last 4 weeks are all up on the website. So all of the slides are available from every talk with all of the resources and the details. So you can access them through there for that one. And then it's always encouraging when you get a couple of questions that say, when are the next public lecture series on? So that's always good. So they'll be repeated next year. They only stopped during COVID because we couldn't, but they're back now. So the plan is that they will happen again roughly around this time next year. And from your pink sheets, that'll give us guidance on what people are finding helpful and useful. So it's your support and your feedback that helps us to know that. So hopefully same time, same place next year. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Katrina.
Thank you.